How now, brown cow? How now, brown cow? Unique New York. Unique New York. Unique.
How annoying is
York.
that? How annoying.
Quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Hey guys, welcome back to Mantalk.ke. There we go, the jump shot. Welcome back to Mantalk.ke, season 11. We are very excited to be back, sat here with our mics, with my boy, with the beautiful Beryl, the competent Beryl, the amazing Beryl behind the camera. It just feels right. It really feels right. It's been a while. As you can see, we're back in our home, Kofisi. If you haven't known by now, this is a co-working space all around Nairobi. I think they're opening a new one, but but there's about 6 branches all scattered around. You can register and then use the social spaces to work. You can book offices as well. It's a fantastic investment for a business or you as an individual. So Kofisi, thank you for being our location and our family for all these seasons. Now,
Thank you, Kofisi.
Thank you.
Thank you. We
Kofisi.
love you guys
We love
so
you
much.
deeply. This episode is called Sorry for the Wait, and we really are. But we're going to get into where we've been, why we've been, and as I said in the last intro, we'll justify the time spent away from the mics.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to jump into it, and I think we always say, just as we kick off every episode, how are you? But I think I already know, but it's for the people to know how we are and what we've been up to. So, Oscar Come.
How you doing, buddy?
Do you know what, man? I'm beautiful. I can't.
That response was a bit too happy.
There we go.
We have to
recharged.
we have to thank all of the fans also. It's been 10 seasons in.
10 seasons, man.
10 seasons of your love, 10 seasons of your support. And if it wasn't for the Mantalk community, we wouldn't be here.
Never would have made it
Okay.
without you.
Okay.
I would have lost
As
it
you can
all.
tell, Anthony Hamilton was around. So yeah, man, thank you so much to our fans for allowing us to sing on set.
I'm so sorry. As you were doing your thank you and I just interrupted. Carry on, please.
You can tell we're a bit rusty.
There he is. Yeah. WD-40.
But like, thank you so much for supporting us, for giving us the love, for giving us the care, and we would not be here without you. It's been 10 beautiful seasons, and we promise to add just as much, and if not more, value with each passing season, man. I think that this one, there's a new level.
Yes,
Eli
always.
and I have a lot. I feel like there's a...
You have to.
Every season we try and give you our very best. So thank you so much, guys.
Yeah. And I don't know if we've ever said this on Man Talk. There's a presumption that we know what we're doing.
It's been going on for a very long time.
Let me be clear, once and for all. We are just 2 young men, right? With perspectives. And we try to bring them on here so that we can stir conversations and have a positive impact. But it does not mean by any stretch of the imagination that we are completely competent in every aspect of our lives.
No.
We are learning. We are both under 30. And we just wanted the platform so that we can start conversations, learn, and interact with people that have similar minds and some that don't, so we can reach conclusions. So whenever we do sit here and we chat, we talk about something, we're not perfect. We're just guys. We're just guys with some mics. We're just guys with some mics.
We're just podcasters.
Yeah.
No one here claims to want to start a religion, please.
No, for sure. No.
We're young guys.
Yes.
Towards the end of our 20s who are just enjoying life and
there we go.
are trying to make a difference while we do that.
Exactly. Yeah. And the reason I've said that and disclosed that is because, and it links into where we've been, we wanted to, let me give context. You can be so obsessed with your work or a product, and especially when your product is to do with life experience, that you forget to go and have those life experience. So you find yourself drawing from experiences way back when you were enjoying life. And that was a realization we kind of had, like, we're going back to back to back. Yeah, it's fine. But the last time I gave a story that was in the last 12 months has been a while.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, 10 seasons.
Yeah.
Let's the gas. Let me just relax a bit and go and experience and, meet new people and do new things, travel to new places. And that's why we realized that the perception maybe is that, we're just guys that go in the studio, go home, work, go to the studio, go home, work. So that's why I wanted to know we're just normal guys trying to enjoy life. That's where that came from, that disclosure.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what have you been up to, man?
On a more personal note.
Yes,
because I feel like Eli has kind of highlighted the issue, but let me frame it in a scenario that's clear, and this will also give context to what I've been up to. During the season break, as Mr. Mwenda will well know, I have had the privilege of being admitted to the courts of Kenya. I am now a judicial officer and an advocate of the High Court of Kenya.
Yes.
And the Supreme Court of Kenya as well. It is a big honor to be part of that. I'm about to join the Law Society of Kenya.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
And in doing that, we saw a very, very pertinent need. It was an urgent,
Yes.
an immediate need
Paramount.
to celebrate as hard as we can.
Interesting choice of words, yes.
Because perhaps I'll be disclosing that, and you'll really see kind of the journey I've had to take for my career in this season. So there are certain things you're going to see and learn about my career and the people in my life who've kind of given me that impact. And we decided to go out and party. Now, in the middle of all that, as a very, very dashing young lady, seeing that I was absolutely off-brand, seeing that me and Eli were outside, stopped me and she asked me, Oscar, but I didn't know you were fun. I didn't know you could get crazy. I didn't know you're a wild boy.
Yes.
And I did tell her, madam, I am a wild boy.
Yes, this is correct.
I am a crazy 20-something-year-old who just had to let loose.
Yeah.
And when we do that, when you see us outside, don't be afraid to come and say hi. We're actually quite approachable. Come, have some fun with us. Don't ask how we're having fun, but come and have fun.
I've had similar conversations and interactions where they're like, after interacting with me, even if you're just bumping into me and chatting, they'll be like, oh, I thought you'd be way more either like reserved or serious.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to be multifaceted. So like here, we should have the ability to deep dive into a topic, go read about something, debate, and have a very progressive mindset. But you should also be able to just sit down, have a coffee and laugh about silly things like stupid little puns, wordplay. Like you can still be that guy at the same time. So yeah, I'm really glad we've got that message across, man.
Be anything in life, but
Anything.
don't be boring.
There we go.
Don't be
there
boring.
we go.
Be anything.
You need stories.
Yeah, don't be boring.
Yeah, that's the worst. That's the worst.
Yeah. So yeah, that's...
How has it been being a bit more out there, being a bit more like, going to more social engagements, etc.? How's that been for you? Have you learned anything from...
First of all, I've learned a lot about myself.
Really?
Yeah, man. Like, I think the podcast has really allowed me to have a wealth of perspective, and the individuals we've met in this podcast, all people who have interesting lives and who have a perspective that's very different from mine. And being more out there in terms of showing up for events, being more social, has allowed me to meet new people and new perspectives and fresh perspectives that I think I'll be able to bring to the podcast now that really, really slap. And it's just been such an honor to meet guys who love Mantalk, love what we do, whether they're in the professional space, whether they're in, just school, university, saying that we add value in some way to their lives. I think that's really been refreshing to kind of experience, because I feel like, we might be here shooting back to back episodes. Then at the same time, we're also like trying to get ahead in our professional lives. Then at the same time, we have family and social gatherings to show up to that are more intimate to us. But going out into a society that's a bit more general, really, really like opened my eyes to the impact and the work that we continue to do. And it's been such an honor to everyone that I've who's shared the story with me, shook hands with. It's been such an honor, man, just to receive that respect, man, and to give it back.
Do you know what's crazy? When we look at our analytics and when we look at comments and people that join the live, the usernames you see, and even the perception of some guys about the program is that it's very much a large women audience, which is the case on some platforms. But there's a difference. And I always say this when I see somebody physically that's talked about Mantalk. I'm like, it's so interesting to see a physical human that sits down and watches, and
beyond the numbers.
Exactly. And that physical human sometimes is not what you expect. Like the biggest demographic that shocked me is like big rugby guys coming up to me and be like, hey bro, twice the size of me. Hey, yes, thank you for what you're doing on Mantalk. Like, I'm really glad I listened to this episode and it really brought me to tears. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
Like just the guys that typically you'd probably cross the street because they're just massive guys, like the, just alpha males, like they're really watching and extracting value, which is, it's like, that's the most rewarding thing, because it's expected that you'll meet a young lady that says, oh, I love what you're doing, I've showed my young brother, etc. But to meet like huge guys that you don't think would give you the time of day to talk about masculinity, which is going to be a topic later on in the season, it's extremely rewarding. So we've been outside interacting with people and it's been phenomenal, which is why we've not been here. So
shout out to everyone. There's a conversation that comes to mind now that you mentioned the alpha male stereotype, the big guys who are doing things with their lives. I have there's a friend of mine who I don't think he's comfortable me sharing his name, but he recently graduated Cambridge, and we were having lunch with him and his friend from primary school who's running now. He's comfortable with me sharing his name. His name is Ian Minjire. He's founded Melanin Capital, and I told you I was going to have lunch with him. And the shock, you can imagine, these are guys who are like, one is a Cambridge graduate, and the other is like a founder of an award-winning startup. And them sitting down with me and telling me, "Oh my God, what you're doing! We see the value, we see the impact." I was so shocked because, like, I was like, "Bro, like, it's a media company, yes, and it's a podcast, but like the shock of seeing that it turned into a debate around what it means to be a man in modern society today, what it means to add value in society as an African person. Like that conversation and just them drawing linkages with their real life and what they do on a daily basis. Man, for me, that was mind-blowing. And these are people I really admire, like really admire, really like listen when they speak and really kind of take a lot from their perspective. And man, like when you meet people of substance, who are like giving you respect because of the work you do as a guy, there's nothing more gratifying.
100%.
There's nothing more gratifying. Even Cliff with the last season Pocket Gym, like that episode, man, like these are men doing things. And that was like huge for us, and that's why Eli and I probably sat down and took time to go, okay, if Mantalk is what we are seeing, then how can we add value to even these people, these ones who are doing in their mid-30s or late 20s, who are doing really impactful things in their life? How can we make this product like highlight the work that they do, so that people behind us can look at us and go, people who are like in the generation behind us can look at us and the people who we are kind of bringing on the podcast and go, hey, yo, that's inspirational. I want to be like A, B, C, or C, or D.
One of the cores was like making that gap between being able to bring someone that maybe wouldn't be able to have a conversation with a younger guy. But I think one of the things I've learned from this whole experience in interacting, similar to what you just said, is that, when you have an idea because there's something bugging you at the back of your mind, like Mantalk, a similar thing for me and you was like, I think there's people out there that want to have conversations, but you don't know that, but you just think there must be like-minded people. And then you just put it out there and you try. And after, hurdles, you will find the people that will be receptive. It's not just a podcast. If it's a product, if it's like a service, there's going to always be somebody that has been thinking that and have been waiting for you maybe to implement it. So like, the idea of just going for it and just jumping and making mistakes, I think is really key. That's what I've seen. Because now looking at somebody and I'm like, the thing I thought about and we thought about like back in like 2019, the audience that I predicted is different, but they're still receptive. That's been incredible. So just if you want to make shoes, somebody needs shoes. Like just take the risk, man, because it's been very rewarding. Very rewarding.
So what experience, what do you think, what like experience outside of like Mantalk and the production that we do have you had in the past like 2 months, 3 months since you've been busy, buddy? That really like highlighted the work that you've been doing so far, buddy?
That highlighted the work. I think I'll just talk about the experiences and I'll try if I can link it back to how it relates to the work. For me, I've been sort of reconnecting with some of my buddies that I haven't seen for a while, having experiences with some of them. I've done a little bit of travel,
you don't
etc. Yeah. So yeah, I linked up with some of my old buddies, which was very refreshing. It's really nice to like go back, recenter, and I kind of went back to like how I was in my early 20s for a protracted amount of time. Early 20s, most of the stories you said on Mantalk are from back there when Europe was a bit more, let's do this. Let's be careless. Let's go. So one of my best friends in the world is getting married in a few weeks. So we had his sort of pre-party. So we traveled. And one of the things that I realized is that I really missed that ignorance of youth and that lack of responsibility, and that I don't have to wake up at a certain time. And in going away and experiencing that again, it reminded me how important it is. I know we've had George in the podcast, and last October, during my birthday, we had this realization to a certain degree, which was work-life balance. And we went on that birthday trip, right? It's coming up to a year now, crazy. And he's someone that always preaches work-life balance. And I think we implemented it a little bit, me personally, but now going to the far extreme, being like, we can really just enjoy for 10 days and just not care, that's now going to be going forward. That lesson I've learned is work is not always going to be the most paramount thing that I do. It gets expensive and it gets a bit silly, but I think it's really, really key. That's the one thing that I've taken away from the time off. Do you know what I would say though? The downside of taking time off, right? So I don't know about you, but especially when you've got a pod like this, you want to always be doing something that's either self-development or something that's adding value to you, just alongside everything else you're doing in life. If it's reading a book, if it's listening to certain podcasts. However, in the last few weeks, maybe like last month, I've not done any self-development. I'll be honest, zero. And I felt a little bit like there is still something missing. So I think it's now striking the balance, because I think it's really key to whatever you're doing, there's still something you're learning. Because I think you go through your whole life from 8 years old to early 20s in formal education. Every day you're learning something. But when you sort of step outside of that and you're now in the real world and you're trying to make money, sometimes when you're making money, you're not learning anything. You're just focused on making money. Especially if it's like business, you're like, I'm not learning anything new. I'm just trying to replicate and increase revenue, right? But, and you've been out of formal education or learning for a while. So there is that gap that you feel like, yes, okay, I'm spending all my time here. I finish work, then I'm watching Netflix. I started to lack that. At the end of the day, there's something new that I've learned. And I think it builds up, because over time, I was like, this is fantastic. Netflix. We've recently had the elections where basically no one's replying to emails. So my day was just for 4 or 5 days. And Beryl was saying the same thing. After a while, you feel like something's wrong. Like you're doing something, you feel guilty. So that's the downside of having time off. And since then, now, even as I knew we're building up to this season, for the past, I'd say week to 10 days, I've now gone back to that, at least extracting value from some literature or something that I can, 1, bring on the podcast, 2, implement in my life, and 3, just chat with my friends about. The other thing that I've done is I've started therapy. I know we said that in two seasons ago?
Yeah.
I said I wanted to start therapy. I found out some stuff, interesting stuff that was shocking. I think a lot of the time, even when we're on here and chatting with each other, there's only so far somebody that knows you and has love for you can take you when it comes to learning about yourself, because it's going to be biased and from a place of love. But going into therapy, and I encourage everyone to do so.
It's ruthless.
It's just they just say this is facts, boom, 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 and you're like, oh yeah, you're not wrong, and then you start to backtrack and think, okay, this is how we got here. So that's been interesting. I started it, and then when I went on my trip, I've not gone back since I got back, so I'm starting again as of next week. But that was interesting. And basically the one lesson I've learned so far from therapy, it's an ongoing thing, is a lot of the things that I thought were strengths were weaknesses in my life. So it's been very interesting. Yeah, some of the things I thought were strengths was weaknesses.
I hope you will share that with us in a distilled version.
Yes. In about 20 minutes, as we've been on the conversation now. Or should I just share now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Basically, it was literally linked to that sentence. What we discovered, is that a lot of the time I have a problem with associating weakness with myself. That's what I've learned in the last few months. I've always thought, no, strength, no, positive, and it can sometimes be a bad thing because you don't allow room for, number one, that vulnerability of I am weak, and accepting I can mess up. That was huge. I was like, you're not wrong. Because there was a certain thing that happened, you're familiar with it, that happened in my life, and I thought, wait a minute, the moral standing I have for myself versus the action I've just done doesn't equate. And now to look at myself in that light as someone that had weakness, someone that can mess up, was horrible, and that kind of spiraled me. We had the conversation. So being okay with being like, you messed up, and that's okay, and you might mess up again, and you might mess up again,
and you might do it again until you figure it again.
Yeah. So that was really telling. That was like, when you get slapped, when you jump in water and it's freezing cold.
Yeah,
it was exactly like
you have
that.
nothing on.
Yeah, nothing, zero. Just as in that. Like the scuba diving, it just slapped me like a ton of bricks. But so yeah, we're working on developing ourselves and having a better relationship with weakness and failure.
Self-awareness is a gift, buddy, and you have that, that ability to self-analyze and to say this is an apparent weakness. And it's not just if you see yourself as being an excessively virtued, like the highest form of virtue becomes yourself, and you tell yourself that I am on this moral high ground, then you will begin to punish yourself.
Yeah, that was the thing. Punishing myself was very true. Yeah.
You don't need, you're good, you're cool.
Yeah, I might. Yeah, that's what I've learned, buddy. In the last, I'd say 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah. We'll get into Barcelona later on in the episode.
Yeah, we will.
We'll jump into that.
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, man? What have you discovered? What journeys have you been on? With who?
So
sorry, that was unprovoked.
That's beautiful.
That was unprovoked. That was no unnecessary.
Yeah, I've been a busy boy.
Busy.
These past few weeks, but I think the one that's really like opened my eyes is just looking at the business side of Mantalk and taking in everything we've done. Like, and now it becomes, okay, we need to make this consistent and we need to make it sustainable. Looking at the interviews we've done, looking at the lives that we've touched, and presenting that information to, brands, to people who might not necessarily even be aware of what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think that was really like, it was a huge revelation. Because, when you're in the middle of the cyclone, when you're in the middle of the storm, you think everyone knows what you're doing. It's like, you guys are a bit of a big deal. Or you're taking it when you're sitting in a boardroom with someone and you're pitching your podcast, they just look at you as, okay, let's distill everything into something. How do you add value for us? How does a partnership with you create value for us? And how do we leverage each other's impact to take each other to the next level? And I think those conversations were really painful, really difficult. And even our business relationships, it got to a point that sometimes we had to like crack the whip on a few things. And learning from that, I think, I've learned that my career can really be very important when it comes to building a business like Mantalk or RevGen or a media company. For those who might not know, me and Eli own a media company that runs the Mantalk brand. And so, kind of giving that company ethos and giving that company kind of a vision to create content like what we create and taking us to the next level has been something that I think was a huge challenge. And thank God I have a partner who thinks. And I think that was one of the lessons that were fantastic. The other one was, being able to communicate a vision. That was a lesson. Being able to communicate a vision, put everything together and actually say, this is what we want to do. This is what we want to achieve. This is the next level. We have this amazing community. How can we add more value to them? Then the second thing that really I grew from came from my team. There were things, I didn't think about. And, because I'm very execution oriented. So I kind of had to learn that you work with people and you grow from that, and I had to learn how to resolve conflict and to stop and pay attention to what is being said to you, because I feel like when you're constantly executing, your mind is always episodes. You're not 100%. Thinking, okay, how will this affect how this person feels or thinks, and it might even be your own people you genuinely care about. And I think that was a big lesson for me for like, don't be too execution oriented. You might have that corporate mindset, but when you're managing and when you run an organization, it's about stopping to pay attention to the person's perspective and the people's perspective. It's not about like getting a goal done,
Sometimes the most effective thing in business is the human element.
Exactly. And it keeps being said, but trust me, you learn. That was another very crucial lesson. Personal life, career wise also, I think I can now make the announcement. So I'll be heading to do my master's in law and finance at Queen Mary University of London. So that starts September. So we are as a team trying to kind of see how we can run the podcast from these different locations and how we can continue to give the audience value even when I'm going through my studies and with Eli, with that period of separation. We've done it before, but now it'll be a bit more complicated. So kind of thinking about relocating is a big, is a nightmare. It's a nightmare. The visa, the filling forms, the looking for where you'll stay, this is cost material. And also the fact that that you're not going to be getting a paycheck from an office.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you're not going to be working with a firm anymore. You're not going to be doing projects. You have to take time off of your career.
I want to ask you a question about that because I've been watching this from the sidelines, actually kind of in the eye of the storm with you in some respects. I want to talk about serendipity with that aspect of your life because I think it's very encouraging taking a bet on yourself, making hard decisions and going against the grain, even when somebody that you typically get advice from says, I don't think you should, but saying no, I'm betting on myself, and then coming back to people with the result and saying, look what happens when I bet on myself, and how everything I think in 1 week can all fall
In place.
in place based on bets you took months ago.
Yeah.
I think that would give such good value to young guys and just guys in general in here. That feeling, that's being scared but still doing it. Like, how's that been for you, bro? And how rewarding was it when it all
fell into place?
Yeah.
So for everyone who doesn't know, so there's a reason why I'm joining the bar now. When I was much younger, I chose to do the law school a year later, but we didn't expect that to be a pandemic, right? So I postponed my, bar exams. Me going to law school to go and work for a tech company because the opportunity was larger. And when you go to law school, there's obviously you expect, okay, it's just going to be a run through 1 year, quick thing. You've been good academically, but you don't know that there are certain hurdles that come with doing a national exam. That you're used to standardized papers. You're used to, hey, let's do this thing. Let's turn it around as quickly as possible. So, that led to a huge delay in the timelines of my career. And then going through that, then working in a law firm where you're adding value every week and you're used to a certain routine. But here you have a passion project, which is Mantalk. And you have to sit down and look at that decision. You're like, okay, if I continue down this path, I might not be able to reap these benefits. If I continue down the path of a career in law, doing A, B, C, D, and following the path that's beaten, then I don't think that this little thing that I'm good at, this passion project of mine and this entrepreneurship muscle of mine will ever be flexed, because I will be latched on, to a certain, it's like a train, like you're latched, you have to hold on until it takes you to that place, partner, And like, I had to, and Eli knows this, I had to take a big bet on myself, even going against some of my mentors who are like, so you're going to take a break from your career so that you can get into media. Are you, is it something you can even do? And Eli saw the struggle. It was a really tough time, but at the same time, I'm not afraid of change. And I honestly believe that we are in times in our life where if you don't show, like I always say, don't let the world tell you who you are. You have to tell the world who you are, because you're the one with the vision. You're the one who holds it. You're the one who sees down the road, like what's going to pay off, and what betting on yourself, the payoff will come at some point. That's exactly what I did those months ago. And everything came together. I got sworn in the same week. Visa applications were done the day before. The day before I got sorted is when the visa applications were going through. Managed to get housing in London despite the expense. And joined a course that I honestly think is going to take not just me, but also everything that I do to the next level. Because, I've always had a passion for finance and business. And I really wanted to make sure that even if I'm doing a course, it has to be a course that merges the two. That merges my ability to do law, but also speaks to the business and entrepreneurship side that I've kind of discovered and want to nurture. And finding that right course at the right time with the right people. Then Mantalk, obviously, at that time is now back. So it was a huge thing. And I encourage everyone to just like, especially like if you're in the legal profession, I know it can be frustrating because that profession does not, in Kenya especially, it does not prioritize youth development. It doesn't prioritize, professions in Kenya don't necessarily prioritize youth development. You're expected to stay small until one day you're big. don't take advantage of the opportunities that are around you. Build a team that you believe in and believe in yourself, despite what the mentors say. Because in the end, they'll end up admiring you.
Despite what the mentors say, that's so key, because everyone's advice can only be drawn from their own life experience.
Yeah.
And there's no one else that's your age, born that date, living in 2022 with the same technology and same ideas as
Exactly.
you. So there's never the beaten path. I hate it.
Exactly.
Because it's beaten for a reason, right?
Exactly.
That's cool. I don't equate it to fear, but it's that kind of predictability that some people, if you don't have, and I say this to my sister all the time, it's a good thing being frustrated. I always think it's a good thing. If you're in a situation where you're like, I can see there's so much bigger things, and you're frustrated there, don't look at that as, I'm going to be now miserable. Like, taking that jump, especially when you're our age, is one of the best things. The same situation, I think we will literally start over there. We shoot in the same room, just different areas. A few seasons ago, when I was saying about taking that bet to just, during mid-COVID, come back to Kenya and do the pod, it's like against everyone that's talking to me and saying, no, just stay here. I've said this in the past episode, save up, get a house here, rent it out, then go back. Like, that was the beaten path, the very logical path. But taking that jump and being like, there's only one Eli, there's only one Oscar that is living right now.
No.
And okay, you fail. So
what's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah. So taking that bet is, how did you get over the fear of the unknown though?
Me, like Eli and I always tell you this, if there's one thing I'm always cautious of, and it's not just advice from others, but advice to myself, is I always note advice that comes from a place of fear and advice that comes from a place of power. I always tell you, like, be very cautious. Even with relationships and people, when you see someone move in a way that's fearful, it's not a place of power. It's not a place that I have conquered these things that I fear. And I want to dominate over them because of who I am as a person and my own self-awareness. Whenever I see that, even in myself, I always check myself, because it was like, okay, Oscar, you have this career that's really thriving. You're working for a top tier place, but there's another level you can get to. How do you get to that next level? And for me, it was like, Mantalk is not a liability. It is an asset. You get what I mean? Like, if you go and meet people who want to invest in you in the forms of scholarships, endowment funds, opportunities to sit on boards, when they sit down and look at Mantalk, it speaks to your character. It's like, you actually have built something that's valuable and something that's adding value to people. And if you look at your career, if you do what currently in Kenya, there's around 18,000 lawyers. There's going to be another 1,000 that come in. If you do everything that all these 18,000 lawyers are doing, then that one Oscar, that differentiating factor from Mantalk is lost.
And
like,
it diminishes, that fire diminishes every year.
Every year you're stuck in this place where is really good, of course, but at the same time, it's not reflective of the value you really can bring to the table. It's going to take away from you. And time waits for nobody. In fact, time is always your enemy. Time is your biggest enemy, because if you spend too much time thinking, if you spend too much time worrying, the sun will rise in the east and set in the west. And before you know what, you're 35, you have a mortgage, you have a wife and kids, and you're like, angry and miserable. You're going through a midlife crisis. But if you go through it now, and you go and you say, okay, turns out I'm good at 1, 2, 3. How do I make this aspect of Oscar, be part of the main dish? Like beans and maize can exist on the same plate. So podcasting and a legal career can still, you being an entrepreneur and you being focused on sustainable development can also be on the same plate. So figure it out. Like, and that's how I conquer the unknown. It's that thing where I look at the situation and I'm like, this is not a liability. It is productive. And to look at yourself as one thing is an extremely reductive argument about who you really are as a person.
Yeah. I think that's a very valuable lesson. Take the risk, man.
Take the risk.
Take the risk.
Jump.
Jump.
You'll be shocked. You'll find amazing things.
Yes.
Truly. Fantastic things.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Sure. What I want to see, the what I've noticed, and this is for the Mandem, what I've noticed in doing this thing for 3 years, I've said there's about maybe 1,500 businesses. 1,450 are women.
There it is. We're not seeing an empowered young male generation that's like coming up aggressively and pushing hard.
Grab a mask, I come back. I run to the pharmacy, I knock on the door.
What are you wearing? Are you in flip-flops?
Linen and flip-flops. Sandals, not the sandals, like the Jesus sandals,
God. No, which sandals again?
The Jesus sandals.
Amen. Hallelujah.
What are you doing? Ah, dear. I've got the Red Sea ones on.
Yeah.
So,